of that equation. So make sure your phones are away, your hoods are off, your headphones are out. Again, like this is it. We have like 2 more lessons, review your test, and that's semester 1 grade. So if you don't feel like going to summer school this summer for this class, I would make sure you're paying attention. So how would I get this equation into standard form? What did you say? I put the 8x on the other side. How do I do that? Add it, right? And so this was the same formula that was on your ticket out the door, only a few people got stamped. And I know it goes in the middle because it goes the x squared, then the x, then the constant. So that was my first part. First, you got to make sure everything is on one side of the equation. It's on the back of your ticket out the door from last class. There's nothing to combine because no one has the same last name. Then, using my table function, I put table on my calculator, and I type that equation in. So I put 4x squared plus 8x minus 1. How do I find my vertex on a calculator? How do I find my vertex? You're looking at a calculator. Anybody know? You don't remember? Anyone else know how do we find our vertex? So we scroll up and down and we find where it goes, remember, from a number to a different number back to that same number. So that bump is your vertex. So if I'm looking at my calculator, right, I can see, okay, when I go to -2, it's -1. When I go to -1, it's -5. And then it goes back. Do you guys all see that?
Yes.
So that bump is your axis or your vertex. So where it goes from a number, you're always looking at your y's, to a different number, back to that same number, that middle coordinate is your vertex. So your vertex here, that bump, would be -1, -5. Even if you were to graph that point or that parabola, you would be able to see that is the lowest y value that it goes. So that would this be a minimum or a maximum if it's the lowest point it goes? Minimum. I could also know because I know this is positive Patricia. She's smiling. And so positive has a min. So I know it's going to be a min. What is my axis of symmetry? Axis of symmetry. Good. X equals -1. Make sure it's an equation. So remember, axis of symmetry is the equation that splits it in half. It's always the x coordinate of your vertex. The minimum is your y. So it's minimum because it's positive. So my y would be -5. Does that make sense? Which part? Finding the vertex? Yeah. So finding the vertex, you literally just scroll down your table and you're looking at your y value. So you're finding where does it go from like a number to a different number and then back to that same number. So when I scroll, I see, oh, I can see it goes from -1 to -5 back to -1. Whatever's in the middle is considered your vertex. The axis of symmetry is the x coordinate of your vertex. I remember that because I say it weird and say axis of symmetry. It's just the x coordinate of your vertex. The min or max is your y coordinate of your vertex. Because it's the highest or lowest your parabola goes. Cool. So today we went over quadratic formula. Next class, today what we're doing is we're doing axis of symmetry and vertex, but we're doing it using both your calculator and sometimes it's going to be a decimal. So I'm showing you how to do it by hand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's your y-intercept. Don't get your x and y-intercepts confused with your axis of symmetry. Good question. Okay, so we're going to that half sheet of paper right here, and you're looking at the front of it where it says graphing quadratic. So make sure your phones are away, your headphones are out. Because if you're missing this and you come ask me questions, I'll just direct you right to the video and you can take the notes and I will help. So we're going to go over that first part first, which is this right here. So we're finding the axis of symmetry and vertex of this parabola. You're able to find it on the calculator.
Morning.
Good morning.
Neondra's being checked out. Can you please send her to the front?
Yes. She's coming.
Thank you.
So the first thing you're going to do is put this into table. See if you can find it looking at your table. So put that equation right there into table. We're on the half sheet where your notes are. And you're putting it into table. See if you can find the bump. Yeah, I'm going to put it on. Mm-hmm. Did anyone find your vertex? Putting that into table. You done? What is it? Which one? You forgot the answer. So what would it be? Someone said it. 5, 2. Right? So my axis of symmetry is, or my vertex is 5, 2. She saw that because when we look at this, we go, your table should look something like this. What's wrong? But not like that. So it would be 3, 4, 5, 6. And it would look something like this. -2, 1, 2, 1. Did everyone see that when they typed it into the table? And so see where it goes from 1 to 2 back to 1? That middle one is your vertex. So 5, 2 would be my vertex. That's my answer. Even when you plot these, write 3, -2, 4, 1, 5, 2, 4, 1, and so it looks like this, which is a parabola, and you can see the vertex is going to be right there. What is my axis of symmetry? Sorry, I can't start. Okay, that's my data. How can I find my axis? What is my axis of symmetry? Good, x equals 5. It's your x coordinate of your vertex. So this line right here is your axis of symmetry. Now, that's how you find it on the calculator. I want to make sure you guys know how to do it by hand because there's going to be times where it's decimals. So the equation, we learned the quadratic formula last class, right? Which was -b plus or minus this whole thing, right? Right? Yeah, we did that last class. So to find your axis of symmetry, we use the outside of that quadratic formula. So they're not going to give you this, they'll give you the whole formula on the formula sheet. You need to know that this part right here is how you get your vertex and axis of symmetry. So you may want to write down that equation because we don't give it to you, but you need to know that -b over 2a gives you your axis of symmetry. So I know, okay, -b over 2a. And so I'm now solving it by hand. I know the answer I should get because I found it in my calculator. What is your a here? What's your a? What's the invisible number? 1, right? -1. What's this one? 10. And C? -23. So to find my vertex and axis symmetry, I use this part of the equation. And so I just plug it in the same way I did with like the quadratic formula. So what is my B? My B is 10, and my A is -1. What is -10, and what's 2 times -1? Good, -2. What's -10 divided by -2? What number? 5. Notice, here's my 5 I got from my calculator. That is your axis of symmetry. So you can use your calculator, but know that also, like, if you are going to have to try to, if you want to use this for the milestone, you are going to have to purchase your own calculator because there's 1,000 freshmen that are all taking the milestone on the same day. So if you want the calculator that gives you the table, or else you have to use the one that's on the computer and it doesn't give you a table. So I would keep that in mind too. And you can talk to me about it if you want to get that. But if you don't have that calculator, you're going to have to do it by hand like this. Then to get my y coordinate, I just take the original equation. So the original equation was this, -1 x squared plus 10x minus 23. And instead of x, I know my x coordinate of my vertex is 5. So you take the original equation, the one at the very beginning, and I'm just typing this right into my calculator. -1 times 5 squared plus 10 times 5 minus 23. What answer do you end up getting? Which is the y coordinate of my vertex. So my whole vertex is 5, 2. So that's how you solve it by hand. And I would always check using your calculator also. But you do need to know how to do that equation because remember, if the answer is a decimal, it's not going to come out on there and you're going to have to do it using the equation. Cool. Flip that paper over. We're going to do the second one. So let's do it by hand first. Is everything on one side of the equation? Is everything on one side of the equation? Yes. So I can start. What is my A? 2. My B? -12. And my C? Good. What's the equation that we use to find our axis of symmetry in our vertex? What did we just use? Maybe good. -b over 2a. That's what's outside the quadratic formula. So I know now I need to plug in these 2 points. So it's negative. What's my b? Over 2, and my a is 2. When you do that, you end up getting 12 over 4, which ends up equaling what? 3. So I know my axis of symmetry is when x equals 3. To get your y coordinate, we plug it in, So I take the equation above, but instead of x, I'm going to put parentheses. And we got our axis of symmetry. Our x coordinate right here, we could see was 3. So I'm going to just put a 3 in for my x. When you do that, what answer do you end up getting?
6.
Be careful. PEMDAS, what comes first, exponents or multiplying? Exponents. So make sure you do 3 squared first. What's 3 squared? 9. And then this will get me 36 plus 9. What is 2 times 19? Or sorry, 2 times 9? 18. And you could just put that right into your calculator. Or you could have put that original one in your calculator. And what do you end up getting? -9. and that's my vertex. That means at 3, -9, that's going to be the minimum. Now, how could I check my work to make sure that's my vertex? What can I do with the device that's on your desk? What do we do at the very beginning of class? Table. So type the original equation in the table, scroll to 3, and you should find that that's your bump. So go to table, and you're typing the original equation. So table, and then you do 2x squared minus 12x plus 9. And when you scroll to 3, you should see that that is your vertex. Does everyone see that? Yeah. And now we kind of want to just fill in the ones around it. So 2, -7, 4, -7, and 1, -1. Now I'm going to graph it. So 1, -1, 2, -7, 3 we already did. So it looks something like this. Does that make sense, how we found that? Yes, no, maybe? Yes. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a few practice problems first. So the first thing I want you to do, you're going to skip this, is you're doing each of these. So at the bottom of your packet, I just want you to practice for a few minutes. So I want you guys to both use your calculator and use that equation and find me what is the vertex, what is the axis of symmetry equation, and direction of opening. So if the leading coefficient is positive, I know it's going up. If the leading coefficient is negative, I know it's going down. So you're doing these. You're going to start with the 2 actually on the front. So start with the 2 on the very front. And I am going to cold call. So I want you guys to do it by hand and answering those 2 questions. So I'll give you guys like 5 minutes to do that.